For Einstein, space was this place where stuff was, and it didn't do anything. It had stuff in it.
Einstein wanted an equation, perhaps no more than 1 inch long, that would encapsulate all physical laws, the beauty, the majesty, the power of the universe into a single equation. That was his life's goal.
Albert Einstein is one of the most popular scientists of the modern world. He's regarded as the most influential physicist of the 20th century. At present, we all know him and his great theories of modern physics. The most famous and recognized one was the theory of relativity, although he did not win a Nobel Prize for that. This is one of the unknown facts of this extraordinary scientist. Einstein's groundbreaking scientific ideas made his name a synonym for genius. But he was also famous for his pacifist views in support of the civil rights movement. But while his contributions to modern society are famous, was he really such a great guy? What is the untold truth about Albert Einstein? And what we don't know about him? Before we begin, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. On March 14, 1879, Albert Einstein was born. The son of a Jewish electrical engineer in Ulm, Germany, Einstein's theories of special and general relativity drastically altered man's view of the universe, and his work in particle and energy theory helped make possible quantum mechanics and ultimately the atomic bomb. The famous scientist was raised in a Jewish family, and after his incredible genius and accomplishments were made known to the world, Israel wanted to claim him as their own. So much so, in fact, that they offered him the presidency after the country's first president, Chaim Weizmann, died in 1952. To the people of Israel, Einstein was known as the greatest Jew alive. But despite the compliments and extreme honor offered him by his position, Einstein turned it down. Maybe it was for the best, as the world-renowned genius died just 3 years after this offer was made. The idea that Einstein had trouble in school is a myth. During summers, a preteen Einstein would study mathematics and physics for fun, eventually mastering differential and integral calculus by the age of 15. But that's not to say he was a perfect student. Einstein hated rote learning and refused to study subjects that didn't interest him. So naturally, when the obstinate number lover took the entrance exam to the Polytechnic School in Zurich, he flunked the language, zoology, and botany sections. Recently, archaeologists discovered a manuscript which was stored in Albert Einstein's archives in Jerusalem and hadn't been found for several decades. Initially, that manuscript was mistakenly justified as its first draft for a different paper, but then it showed that Einstein had proposed an alternate Big Bang theory in the year 1931. Later on, when proper research was done, the scientists came to know that it was the initial excitement over the Big Bang theory. However, that was only a rough draft of that, and Einstein never tried to explore it. While Einstein was an inspiration to the world for his revolutionary contributions to science, he wasn't the best husband, not even close. He apparently was quite the womanizer, as he had affairs during both of his marriages. He had multiple extramarital affairs, including one dalliance with a possible Russian spy, and he was also reportedly quite demanding, especially with his first wife, Mileva Mark. Einstein penned a list of conditions for his wife Mileva that resurfaced just a few years ago. Among these conditions were the orders that she must stop talking to him if he requested it, and that she could not expect physical intimacy from him. He also gave her a list of duties to perform for him every day, including bringing 3 meals to him to his study and then promptly leaving the room. Fortunately for Mileva, they divorced in 1919. As part of their separation agreement, Einstein promised her an annual stipend, plus whatever money he might receive from the Nobel Prize, which he was supremely confident he would eventually win. Merrick agreed, and Einstein later handed over a small fortune upon receiving the award in 1922 for his work on the photoelectric effect. By then, he'd already married to Elsa, who remained his wife until her death in 1936. Einstein's family life was pretty messed up, which extended to the raising of his children. His relationship with one of his sons, Edward, was particularly strained, as it was later found that the young man had schizophrenia. For any parent, this is a difficult and devastating bit of news, but Papa Einstein handled it particularly poorly. The son was institutionalized at the age of 25, and his father didn't see him after that. According to the New York Times, Einstein even went so far as to say, "If only I had known, he would never have come into this world." Edward died in a Swiss mental institution at the age of 55, having not seen his father for decades. A year before Einstein's first wedding, Merrick gave birth to an illegitimate daughter named Larissa. Einstein never spoke about the child to his family, and biographers weren't even aware of her existence until examining his private papers in the late 1980s. Her fate remains a mystery to this day. Some scholars think Larissa died from scarlet fever in 1903, while others believe she survived the sickness and was given up for adoption in Marek's native Serbia. But while there are a multitude of theories out there, nothing is known for sure. Despite the fact that he was a bad parent, Albert Einstein was still a genius, and he was offered to be the president of Israel, but he had to decline. While Einstein lived in New Jersey for many years and was recognized as an American citizen, the FBI still kept a very watchful eye on him. Some of the biggest tragedies the world has ever known occurred during Einstein's lifetime. The World Wars and the Great Depression, for example. With war exploding all around the world and with Einstein's German ancestry, the FBI were considering the possibility that the scientist was really a foreign spy. The contents of the FBI's investigation were made known to the public under the Freedom of Information Act, and the information they gathered on Einstein amounts to an incredible 177 pages. Within those pages, Einstein is also heavily criticized as a dangerous anarchist. It's easy to assume that Einstein's theories of relativity are purely theoretical, but they really do affect your everyday life. For instance, the theory of general relativity states that gravity affects time. Time moves by faster for objects in space than objects here on Earth, and that has profound implications for many space-based technologies, especially the accuracy of your GPS. His theories also explain how electromagnetics work and are foundational to nuclear technology. When Epstein died in April 1955 from an abdominal aortic aneurysm, he had requested that his body be cremated. But, in a bizarre incident, Princeton pathologist Thomas Harvey removed his famous brain during his autopsy and kept it in the hope of unlocking the secrets of his genius. After winning a reluctant approval from Einstein's son, Harvey later had the brain cut into pieces and sent to various scientists for research. A handful of studies have been conducted on it since the 1980s, but most have either been dismissed or discredited. Perhaps the most famous came in 1999 when a team from a Canadian university published a controversial paper claiming Einstein possessed unusual folds on his parietal lobe, a part of the brain associated with mathematical and spatial ability.